HOA tried to kick me out of my own house. Then she lost hers instead. No, that's not clickbait. That's a Tuesday where I live. If you've ever been fined for existing, smash like. And tell me in the comments the most ridiculous crime your HOA ever accused you of. Bonus points if it involved a mailbox and a ruler. My name's Alex. I bought a stubborn little 1940s bungalow that smells like cedar and fresh coffee and looks like it would win a fist fight with a bulldozer. The porch swings with a friendly creak. The floors sigh when it rains. The door is a shade of deep teal that could make a peacock feel underdressed. I'm not fancy, but I am allergic to nonsense. Unfortunately, my HOA is basically airborne nonsense. Enter Karen. Actual name, cosmic coincidence. HOA president with a bun so tight it could recalibrate a compass. She has that "I run this place" face, which mostly looks like she's trying to hold in a sneeze of superiority. She carries a clipboard like a sheriff's badge and speaks in CC&Rs like it's her native language. The first letter arrived on a Wednesday, in an envelope the color of disappointment. Immediate eviction, non-compliant occupancy. I laughed out loud, then reread it. Apparently, according to newly updated guidelines, single-family occupancy required board approval. As in, I needed permission to live in my own house. Cute. That afternoon, Karen arrived with 2 board members who looked like they were moonlighting as coat racks. She opened with, "We've noticed irregularities in your residency status." My residency status? I said, "You mean the deed with my name on it?" Karen gave me a smile that could frost a pie. "Deeds are under review. There may be a title anomaly." Anomaly, I repeated, like a solar eclipse, or critical thinking at board meetings. She didn't laugh. Tragic, given the free material. By Friday, the tally of infractions read like a parody script. Unauthorized door color. Pacific drizzle number 17 is approved. Teal is aggressive. Mailbox noncompliance. 5 inches too tall, allegedly threatening community harmony. Trash can exposure. Visible for 14 minutes after pickup. 14. Did she set a stopwatch? Unsightly hose. Coiled like a mortal sin. Improper porch swing acoustics. And I quote, inconsistent squeak profile. The fine stacked up faster than bad decisions at a bachelorette party. And then came a gem. A courtesy notice that my guest overnight count suggested a rental, which is prohibited without board approval. The guest in question? My sister, who came over with soup when I had the flu. I replied that if the board needed proof I wasn't running a hotel, I could send them a recording of me coughing on the hour like a grandfather clock. Karen tried the intimidation stare. I gave her an A for effort and an F for results. She went for the jugular. Given the totality of violations and the uncertainty surrounding your title, the board is considering occupancy suspension. Occupancy suspension? I said. From my house. It's for the community. Right? Nothing screams community like kicking out the guy who shovels the cul-de-sac every snowstorm. Sarcasm is my cardio, but I'm not reckless. That night, I pulled out the binder with the CC&Rs, a highlighter, and a level of pettiness usually reserved for professional rivalries. I read until the margins glowed neon. Then I opened the county website, plats, easements, assessor maps, the subdivision's original filings, digital archaeology. I learned that newly updated guidelines had been rushed through at a special meeting with suspiciously low attendance. I learned that the HOA boundary lines looked like they'd been drawn by someone swatting a fly. And I learned a magical phrase buried in a 15-year-old amendment. Non-conforming grandfathered structures are exempt from retroactive enforcement. My house, built before the HOA existed. It was practically the neighborhood's grumpy grandparent. Non-conforming was its middle name. I almost felt sorry for whoever forgot that clause. Almost. Saturday morning, Karen strutted up my path again, heels stabbing the walkway like she was auditioning for Tap Dance of the Villains. She held a thicker envelope this time. Final warning, she announced to the gardenias. I opened it on the porch. 50% larger fines. A hearing to determine continued tenancy. The phrase made me laugh so hard I wheezed. Bring your deed, she added. And any explanations. I'll bring more than that, I said. Good. she replied, pivoting. We like transparency. Same, I said. You'll love what I found. Because in the maps, past the coffee stains and the eye rolls, past the petty notes about door shades and mailbox angles, I had circled one thin, mostly ignored line that hummed like a live wire. It didn't cut through my lot. It cut through hers. I didn't grin. Not yet. But the porch swing creaked a little higher, like it knew a secret. And for once, Karen's heels didn't sound like certainty. They sounded like a countdown. The HOA hearing was held in the community room that smells like old carpet and unfulfilled promises. Folding chairs, stale coffee, a flag in the corner that looked embarrassed to be there. Karen presided behind a plastic table like a queen at a yard sale, flanked by her 2 coat rack lieutenants and a stack of binders that could double as weight training. Neighbors trickled in. Brian, from Unit 12, the barbecue guy, sat behind me and whispered, brought popcorn, while shaking a bag of sunflower seeds. Maya, the math teacher, opened a notebook with color-coded tabs like she'd come to grade the drama. I set my binder down. It landed with a satisfying thud. Karen flinched, then smoothed it into a smile. Good evening, she said, voice crisp enough to exfoliate. We are here to discuss Mr. Alex's non-compliant occupancy and pattern of violations. I raised a hand. Before we start, do you have the minutes from this special meeting where the new rules were passed? And the attendance sheet? Karen blinked like a modem connecting. We'll address that in due time. Neat, I said. Because the bylaws require notice and quorum. I like to start with dessert. She slid a packet toward me like a teacher returning a failing exam. Exhibit A, photographic evidence of infractions. The photos were a scrapbook of pettiness. My door in glorious teal, my mailbox looking like it had personally insulted her, my trash can basking in sunlight for, yes, 14 minutes. One photo was a close-up of my garden hose, coiled like a sleeping snake. Unsightly, she said, as if I displayed a taxidermied raccoon. Exhibit B, she continued, a title irregularity. According to this, she held up a printout from some dubious database. Your deed references Lot 7, Block B, but the plat you filed mentions Lot 7, Block D. That's adorable, I said. Except this is a cached page from a third-party site that confuses subdivision phases. Here's the certified copy from the county clerk, with legal description matching the recorded plat. I slid a folder forward. The shiny seal winked at the fluorescent lights. A murmur in the room. Maya smiled like she'd just caught a student cheating with the wrong formula. Brian cracked a seed and mouthed, nice. Karen's smile tightened. Even so, occupancy may be suspended pending review. Suspended how? I asked. You don't own the property. You can fine me, sure. But occupancy suspension requires an injunction, which would mean court, which would mean your new rules need to exist legally, which would mean I tap the bylaws, notice, quorum, and a 2/3 vote for any rule that restricts residents. Also, fun twist, my house predates the HOA. Non-conforming grandfather exemption, Section 8.4. You can't retroactively enforce aesthetics on a structure older than your paperwork. Somewhere in the back, someone snorted. Karen shot them a look that could curdle yogurt. She moved on. Exhibit C, reports from neighbors about excessive noise, the porch swing squeak. Happy to oil it, I said. Do you prefer citrus or unscented harmony? This is not a joke, she snapped. I agree, I said. It's a trilogy. She announced a site inspection for the following week. To verify dimensions, clearances, and setback compliance, she said, savoring the syllables. Fantastic, I said. Please bring a copy of the original subdivision plat and the 2009 replat with utility easements marked. Her eyes flashed. I pretended to study my cuticles. Then came karma and sensible heels. Karen reached for a banker's box of additional exhibits, caught the edge of the tablecloth, and the box slid, papers fanning out like a blizzard of busy work. She lunged, heel snagged, and, gracefully as a giraffe on ice, she windmilled and thumped against the table. Gasps, then silence, then the tiniest squeak from my porch swing memory playing in my head. She popped up instantly, cheeks the color of righteous fury. I would have helped, truly, but my hands were busy not clapping. We rapped with the board, taking the matter under advisement, which is legal for we have no idea. Outside, the evening smelled like rain and fresh asphalt. Brian clapped my shoulder. You landed some hits. Light jabs, I said. Cardio. Maya leaned in. What was with the replat question? I watched the cloud line crawling over the hills. Just checking measurements, I said. You know how lines wander when people stop watching. Because that thin humming line on the plat, it didn't just nick Karen's property. It carved a question mark through her backyard. Right under the she shed, she bragged about it every potluck, and suspiciously close to common area the HOA swore was sacred. Whether it was an encroachment, an easement, or a full-blown cartographic oops, I'd find out during that site inspection. I walked home, the porch swing greeting me with its off-key note. I oiled it, just to be petty, and sat there, listening to the storm roll in. Somewhere across the cul-de-sac, Karen's lights paced from room to room like a restless cat. The countdown had reset. And this time, I wasn't the one on the clock. Inspection day, aka HOA's version of Christmas morning, where they show up with rulers and clipboards instead of gifts. Karen arrived first, clipboard in hand like a holy relic. Her lieutenants followed, armed with tape measures and the enthusiasm of men who looked like they'd been promised a free muffin afterward. I stood on my porch with coffee, looking like a man about to enjoy live theater. Good morning, Karen chirped, her smile stretched tight enough to qualify as an OSHA hazard. We'll be conducting measurements today. Great, I said. I brought snacks. Do you want popcorn before or after you find out something fun? She ignored me and ordered the lieutenants to measure setbacks. They crouched with tape like archaeologists uncovering a parking lot. Karen scribbled violations as though she was scoring a talent show. Then came the mailbox. 5 inches above limit, she declared triumphantly. I sipped my coffee. Dangerous. Could give the mailman vertigo. The trash can zone was next. She whipped out a stopwatch, as if ready to time its exposure. I asked if she also monitored squirrels for loitering. No response. Finally, the backyard. That's when the plat map came out. I unfurled my copy across a folding table, the county seal shining like a spotlight. The line cut neatly through Karen's lot, slicing off a juicy triangle of her prized backyard. What exactly is this? She asked, voice wobbling. The original subdivision plat, I said. See this line? Utility easement. Recorded in 2009. Everything to the left of it is HOA common area. Her she shed sat right there, smug as a cat in a dog park. That's impossible, she snapped. This is my private yard. Cute theory, I said. But according to county records, that patch of grass isn't yours. Never was. And building a permanent structure on HOA property without approval. I flipped open the CC&Rs, page highlighted. That's a Category 1 violation. Fines accrue daily. Ouch. The lieutenants shifted uncomfortably, like kids realizing mom just swore in church. Karen's jaw clenched. There must be an error. Oh, absolutely, I said. But it's not on my deed. She ordered the tape guys to verify dimensions. They measured. Their tape snapped back with a slap. One cleared his throat. She's right, Karen. The shed's inside the easement. Silence. The kind of silence that tastes like victory. Karen's face cycled through colors like a malfunctioning traffic light. We'll review this internally, she finally said. Of course, I said. Transparency, right? You love that. The inspection wrapped with her storming off, heels stabbing divots into her own easement. I waved cheerfully from the porch, my coffee steaming like applause. That evening, whispers spread. Maya knocked on my door. So, Karen's shed. Technically, I said, community property, which means everyone owns it. Want me to host a barbecue inside? Her laugh could have powered the streetlights. Brian texted, dibs on turning it into a beer fridge. By the weekend, the neighborhood buzzed. People who never looked me in the eye suddenly smiled. Karen, meanwhile, walked around like a balloon 2 seconds from popping. Then came the cherry. A notice slid under my door. Special board meeting. Alleged encroachment. Lot 11. Lot 11 being Karen's house. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Because next week, she wouldn't be the prosecutor. She'd be the defendant. And judging by the neighbors' grins, the jury wasn't leaning her way. My porch swing gave a perfectly oiled creak, and I thought, round 2 starts soon. Special board meeting night. Same community room, same sad carpet, same stale coffee. But this time the circus had a new clown at center stage. Spoiler, it wasn't me. Karen sat at the table, not behind it. She had swapped her usual power bun for a softer hairstyle. Probably her idea of approachable. Unfortunately, she paired it with a stack of papers thick enough to choke a filing cabinet. The lieutenants sat on either side, now looking like reluctant defense attorneys. Neighbors filled every chair. Standing room only. You could feel the buzz, half curiosity, half schadenfreude. Brian whispered, "This is better than Netflix." Maya opened a new set of neatly tabbed notes like she was grading a test again. The vice president of the HOA, clearly enjoying his temporary promotion, opened the meeting. Tonight's agenda: encroachment allegations regarding Lot 11. Specifically, a structure located on HOA common area. All eyes swung to Karen. She cleared her throat like she was about to announce world peace. "This is a misunderstanding," she began. "The shed has stood for years without complaint. It enhances property values." "Property values?" someone muttered. "It looks like a garden tomb." Karen pushed on. "Besides, the line in question is ambiguous. Boundaries can be interpreted differently." I raised my hand. "Funny you say that. Because here's the county survey map, certified last year. And here's the original easement agreement. Neither are ambiguous unless you're squinting through ego-colored glasses." I laid them flat on the table. The seal caught the fluorescent light like it was mocking her. Maya spoke up from the audience. "I teach geometry. That's not interpretation. It's math. The shed is at least 3 feet inside common area." Brian cracked a seed. 3 feet? That's a beer fridge and a recliner right there. The room chuckled. Karen tried to regain control. "Even if, hypothetically, it overlaps, the board can grant exceptions." The VP leaned back. "Exceptions require a 2/3 vote and notice to the community. Did you follow that process?" Her silence was louder than fireworks. Someone in the back coughed. "Guess not." I leaned forward. "So, just to summarize, I got fined for a squeaky porch swing, but Karen built an unauthorized structure on HOA land. Am I tracking that right?" Laughter rippled through the room. Karen's face froze in the kind of smile dentists warn about. Then came her death spiral. She pulled out her evidence binder, yanked it open, and half the contents slid to the floor. A photo of her shed, captioned "Community Improvement," landed face up at my feet. I picked it up, studied it, and held it up. Exhibit A, Karen's backyard Airbnb. The VP couldn't hide his grin. "Enough. The encroachment is clear. Effective immediately, fines will accrue until the structure is removed. Additionally, the board will review possible restitution to the HOA for use of common property." Translation: Karen owed money. Lots of it. The neighbors applauded. Actually applauded. I almost expected a standing ovation. Karen, red-faced, stuffed her papers back into the box like she was shoving down regret. On the way out, she muttered at me, "You think this is over?" I smiled sweetly. "No, I think it's expensive." Back at home, my porch swing carried me like a throne. I watched the street as neighbors chatted, heads shaking, laughter spilling. Karen's lights stayed off that night. The queen had fallen from her plastic throne, and the peasants were enjoying the after-party. But what I didn't know yet, what made this story legendary, was that the fines were just the start. Karen's real downfall hadn't even begun. By the next month, Karen's shed was still standing, smug as ever. But the HOA fines? They stacked up like a Jenga tower in an earthquake zone. Daily penalties for unauthorized structure, encroachment, and, my personal favorite, failure to comply with board directive. Neighbors noticed. Oh, did they notice? HOA newsletters, usually dull enough to cure insomnia, suddenly read like comedy columns. Reminder: structures on common property are subject to removal. Everyone knew who it was aimed at. Brian started calling her place the shed quarters. Maya, bless her math teacher's soul, spray-painted 3 feet on a cardboard sign and leaned it against my porch as solidarity. Karen fought back the only way she knew. More paperwork. She filed appeals, complaints, even tried to spin a narrative that I had doctored the plat maps. Unfortunately for her, the county clerk doesn't take bribes in the form of attitude. She lost every appeal like clockwork. Then came the nuclear hit. Unpaid fines converted into a lien against her house. The same house she'd once threatened to evict me from. Oh, the irony. So rich it could clog arteries. The lien notice spread like wildfire. Suddenly, Karen wasn't strutting around with her clipboard. She was sneaking in and out of her house like a raccoon avoiding headlights. Former allies stopped waving. Some crossed the street. The board meetings turned into open mic roasts. One neighbor deadpanned. So, when's the community moving into our new shed? And the room nearly collapsed with laughter. I stayed mostly quiet. Mostly. Except once, when Karen passed me on the sidewalk, chin trembling with indignation. Hope you're proud of yourself, she hissed. Not yet, I said. I'll save that for the day the auction sign goes up. Guess what showed up 6 weeks later? The lien matured. She couldn't pay. Her house, the fortress of HOA tyranny, went on the market under foreclosure. Watching that for sale sign hammer into her lawn was like hearing the universe clap. On move-out day, neighbors gathered on their porches like it was the 4th of July. Karen dragged boxes to a rented U-Haul, tripping once over a stray folder of her evidence. Papers scattered. She scrambled on the driveway while Brian shouted, "Careful, don't let the shed paperwork blow away. It belongs to all of us now." The laughter echoed down the block. I gave her a polite wave. "Don't worry, Karen. I'll send you a postcard from the property you tried to steal." She glared, muttered something about injustice, and drove off. Nobody waved back. The board dissolved her presidency within a week. The shed was officially designated as community storage. Brian stocked it with folding chairs and a cooler labeled HOA Survivors Club. And me? I sat on my teal porch swing, perfectly oiled, perfectly non-compliant in spirit, and thought. Karen didn't just lose the battle. She lost her throne, her shed, and her house. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Thank you for being with us. Please share in the comments where you are watching from and whether you liked everything, and see you next time.